introduction. My name is well, actually, it is usually pronounced in Na in Korea, but just the English spelling can be different. So I am going to talk about my research in general. So especially, I want to briefly talk about my dissertation, PhD dissertation that I did from Rutgers University. So I was thinking what to present today, but I just want to briefly summarize my dissertation so that I want to let you know what I am specialized in the field of information science. So as you can see here, the title is related to information seeking behavior. So I've been studying the information seeking behavior in general, especially the task-based information seeking, which is a sub-area of information seeking behavior. So I was working with Nick Belkin. I don't know if you heard of him. So he is studying the human information behavior. So I was influenced by him a lot. So I want to give you a little background of my entire research. So task-based information seeking highlight the role of task in relation to understanding information seeking behavior, because task plays a major role in motivating information seeking. So from this perspective, the information seeking is triggered and motivated by some kind of task, like for example, like doing some research, that could be your task, or planning your a trip, that could be your task, right? So that is the example of task. So this is general process of task-based information seeking. For example, the person, we can start from the beginning. So the person start perceiving or understanding kind of task, a given task. And to perform the task, we identify specific information problems from the task. And then we focus on certain kind of problems identified from the task. And then we search for information or seek the information and use the information to resolve the problems identified. So this is kind of a general process and general picture of how the information seeking behavior in tasks can occur. So maybe some of you are familiar with the area of this. Task-based information seeking is researched by a lot of scholars, and they focus on several factors that may influence this process. And mostly they talk about the individual characteristics, like the kind of the person's, their ability to search, ability to understand the topic, and so on, or the characteristics of a task itself. However, I saw that there's kind of limited understandings of the relationships between the social context where the task is generated and performed, and the information seeking behavior, because task is kind of motivated by certain kind of individuals' goals, right? Because of that, generally it mostly is researched from like a cognitive aspect. So I try to understand kind of social dimensions that could influence these kind of individualistic activities. So according to my research problems, I set the goal as to explore how the social context where the task is generated and performed influences individuals' cognitive and behavior activities. Like as you can see from the picture, there are several kinds of cognitive activities, also behaviors that may take place during this process, like identifying specific problems, focusing on certain problems, and so on. So I wanted to look at the relationship between the social context and such kind of cognitive as well as behavior activities. So in order to present in a very limited time frame, I really narrowed down, make a brief summary of the study design. So I chose the cognitive sociology as theoretical framework of the study. The cognitive sociology is a subfield of sociology that emphasizes social dimensions of human cognition. So we usually think that cognition is kind of very individualistic aspect, but it can be social because we are kind of socialized to a certain communities to learn about how to think in a social way. So we naturally think as a member of a certain social communities according to this theory. So which is called thought communities. So it is the term that is used and introduced in this theoretical framework. So I use that the concept. Also, this theory suggests that some of our cognitive acts are social, can be social. Of course, it's still individual, cognitive, but some of the cognitive acts can be social, such as perception, like perceiving or interpreting certain things that could be social. Also attending to certain things, like paying attention to certain things, they could be also a social activity, which is called social mental act. So I use those concepts from the cognitive sociology to articulate the relationship between social context and the individual's behavior with respect to task-based information seeking. It's like a big theory, but I can't really explain every single thing in this session, but that's kind of keyword that I chose for study design. So it was a qualitative study because I used a semi-structured individual in-depth interview as well as a diary study. And then the cognitive sociology normally use like cross-context comparison, like comparing different communities. So it was a comparative study, and I chose the academia as a type of both communities in this study. So I specifically the disciplinary groups. So different disciplines, like different types of social communities. So I chose natural sciences and humanities in academia. And it was a case study. I focused on a particular type of motivating task because I tried to understand the behaviors related to tasks. I focused on one particular kind of task, which was research proposal writing that was generally performed in academia across different disciplines. So as a result of the study, so this is the process that I introduced in the beginning of the presentation. So I go directly to the research section. So I found that there are some the effect of social context on the task-related behavior, including cognition, like cognitive activities such as perceiving and understanding or interpreting a task. Also identifying specific information problems from a task and searching for information or using the information to complete the task, especially the social norms and social practices that exist in each community influenced the difference between two different communities. So based on that, I was able to see there are some kinds of social aspect of task perception, like when people perceive and interpret a task, they are kind of influenced by their communities. Also, identification of specific information problems from a task can be also influenced by social communities. Similarly, the information-related activities like sharing the information, using the information, that such kinds of information activities are also influenced by their communities. So I was able to explore that there are some kinds of social mental act in task-based information seeking. As I explained earlier, the cognitive sociology introduced that there are some social mental act, which is socially constructive cognitive activities. So I found out that there are some social mental act influenced by their thought communities in the process of task-based information seeking. So implications of the study, it could help us understand the user cognition and user need, which are all kinds of cognitive activities better. before we only talk about like individuals' preferences, individuals' existing knowledge, something like that, but we can also consider like their social communities that could influence their cognitive activities. So that is kind of implication of the study. So it was my dissertation, but part of that was published in academic journal, and also I'm finalizing the RQ2 part as a publication. So this is my last slide. So I'm gonna finalize my presentation by explaining what I'm interested in. So basically, as you can see from the previous introduction of our department, I'm interested in general information seeking behavior, especially of various kinds of socio-cultural communities. I only focused on academic communities before for my dissertation, but according to cognitive sociology, there are several kinds of both communities, like national communities, ethnic or religious communities, generational communities. So I want to continue to articulate some kind of social mental aspect related to information seeking behavior, so that we can better learn about why different people behave in a different way by understanding some kind of social effect on their cognition. Also, I am interested in library services and spaces for diverse communities, which is pretty similar to the first theme. So, especially our society, I think we are more talking about diversity these days compared to the past, because maybe some of you heard that we have like a really low birth rate. So compared to the past, we should be prepared for like more like diversity, like accepting more immigrant, more. So we already in academia, we already see so many international students coming from several kinds of cultures. So I think in library also we should talk about diversity. One of my students, Jui, is gonna talk about more about that later. So we should talk about like diversity in library services, programming, and spaces in academic libraries as well as public libraries. So that is my future research path. I'm happy to collaborate with other institutions with respect to these topics. So. And that completes my presentation today. Maybe we will have a Q&A later. So thank you for your attention.
Q&A.
Oh.
나중에 Q&A 세션.
Sure.